Hi there. And another couple of books about air marshals. And these books are both written by Marcus Wynne. And Marcus is one of the modern breed of thriller writers who use their background experience to great effect to craft a very, very authentic level of technical and tactical expertise in the fictional books. So the two books we're looking at, the first one is simply called Air Marshals, and it was actually the first book that Marcus wrote, although it wasn't published until later. And his first published book, No Other Option, which I've reviewed, really made a splash. And then subsequently, uh, down the line, Air Marshals was released. And it really fills the time from the late 80s into the 90s era of the Federal Air Marshal Program. The book opens with the kidnap in Beirut of a CIA officer, which was based on fact, and he was tortured for information, including information about aviation security. And what he was forced to give up later provided the terrorists with a blueprint for hijacking a subsequent airliner. So the outline of the plot is that the terrorists are determined to strike at the heart of United States aviation security. So it's a fictional book. Both of the books are fiction, but obviously Marcus flew as an air marshal. He was an instructor as well. So it's fact woven in very, very skillfully with the fiction. But the plot obviously is fiction. And the story then goes to the training base at Marana, where the hero, Charlie Day, is training a new class of air marshals, and it goes into action shown scenario and so on. And he's got his training buddies with him, kind of really experienced guys, and then they get recalled to go operational again for a series of missions overseas. And a character is introduced who is one of the senior management in the Air Marshal program, who again is based on a real figure who was a real pain in the neck to the guys. Without going into too much, a friend of ours was contracted to go down to Marana to train all the air marshals during their recurrent training, and he put them through a phase of very advanced training. And he told me about this character. This guy, it doesn't tend to use bad language at all, but he was almost driven to profanity over this character. And just another thing on that, federal organization is woesome, and this gig was going to last several weeks, and he was due to fly out on a Friday evening, and Friday lunchtime he still hadn't had confirmation from the FAA that the training had been accepted. But in the event, he went and he put all the guys through what he called advanced tactical pistol in a hostage-rich linear environment, and they got a lot out of that training. Anyway, so this character doesn't like Charlie. He's kind of he's intimidated by his expertise and so on, and he tries to put obstacles in his way. And the guys go off to Europe, and they're flying missions between different European cities for an extended period of time. Meanwhile, the terrorists, who are well described in the book, their motivation and their methodology, I've got this plan where they're going to hit the Marshals on the ground to degrade their ability and be prior to making an attack in the air. And there is a parallel operation based in Frankfurt run by a character called Jedi, who's again based on a real guy. A lot of the people in this book are real people. I've met some of them who were working with Marcus at the time, and thinly veiled identities. So this character Jedi is running a direct action cell looking for terrorists in Europe, and he is kind of protecting the air marshals while they're on the ground. Anyway, the whole thing climaxes on the return flight across the Atlantic, where the exhausted and depleted air marshal team is engaged encountering and recovering the aircraft during a hijack attempt. And as you might expect, anyone who's read any of Marcus's books, the action is really, really well described, and you're there, you're right in it, and it's a remarkable bit of writing, that final attack, and then there's kind of a twist when they arrive back on the ground, and kind of all wraps up with the senior manager getting his comeuppance. So that brings us on to the second book, With a Vengeance, and this book concerns the air marshal program after 9/11, and the main character, Hunter James, is an air marshal, and the book opens with a flight within the United States, domestic flight, and there's an attack on it, and the air marshals have to go into action. And this book is the best description of close quarter combat I've ever read, and there's quite a lot of competition for that title, but Marcus really pulled out all the stops with this one. And there's things like female air marshal using a hideaway knife and all sorts of things. It's really bloody, really gritty, and very tragic in places, the loss of life. Hunter gets wounded. He then goes into a phase where he's liaising with the FBI hostage rescue team looking for terrorists. And then there's backstory about activities in the Middle East, and a really shadowy character who turns out to be the cause of all the attacks. And then there's quite a lot of training information in it. There's Hunter James goes off to the Riddle of Steel, James Keating's knife training camp in Idaho. And Marcus really knows his stuff when it comes to edge weapons and edge weapon training, and that's covered very, very well. Even turns up in Liverpool, and Slacky, Cy Squire's a name checked there as he goes through different phases of training. And then there's a big climax again aboard an aircraft, countering a hijack attempt. So the two books together give the early FAA Air Marshals and then the later Homeland Security / TSA Air Marshal story. Both fictional, right off the bat, we understand that. And, Marcus doesn't give away any secrets in how the guys operate. The technical expertise on weaponry and holsters and things like that is spot on, and it's written in a very, very exciting way. And the two main characters, Charlie and Hunter, very, very believable, and in a way very human and slightly vulnerable as well. And that's certainly two of my favorite books.